She left a note on a Tuesday morning in March. Not a talk, not a phone call, not even a half-hearted attempt to explain herself face to face. Just a scrap of paper sitting on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker like it was nothing more than a reminder to buy milk. I still remember the way the house sounded that morning. Quiet in that ordinary way, the kind of quiet you barely notice when you're used to it. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the clock over the sink. I was in my bathrobe, barefoot, halfway awake, thinking about nothing in particular. I poured coffee, turned around, and saw the envelope. At first I thought it was a grocery list. Then I opened it. I need to find myself again. Don't wait for me. I'm sorry. 7 words I never saw coming, laid out in her tidy handwriting like a final receipt. I read it once, then again. Each time, my brain lagged behind my eyes. Find herself? Don't wait? Sorry. Like I was supposed to nod, fold it up, and go about my day. I looked out the front window. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I walked upstairs. Half her closet was empty. The drawers on her side of the bathroom sink were cleaned out so neatly it was like she'd erased herself from the house in one sweep. My chest went tight and cold at the same time, like I'd stepped into a freezer. I grabbed my phone. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I walked back downstairs, then back up again like maybe my eyes had missed something, like maybe if I moved fast enough I'd catch the trail of a joke. That was the first half hour after my wife of 26 years vanished. The second half hour was worse. I logged into our joint savings account because my mind needed something concrete to hold on to. I expected to see the same number I'd seen the day before. A healthy cushion we'd built over decades. Vacations, retirement, emergencies, the kind of security you believe you've earned by showing up for life every day. The balance was down by $80,000. I refreshed the page. It didn't change. I checked the recent transactions. One withdrawal, clean and final, from the night before. My hands started shaking. Not a dramatic shake, just a quiet tremor like my body didn't know what to do with the weight of what it was learning. I sat at the kitchen table, note in one hand, phone in the other, staring at the wood grain like it might rearrange itself into a different story. My name is Russell Lawson. Russ to everyone who knows me. I'm 50 years old, and up until that morning I thought I had the basics figured out. I had a solid marriage. At least, I thought I did. Yvonne and I had been together since we were kids in our early 20s. We grew into adults side by side, built a family, weathered the normal storms, the lean years, the sleepless nights with babies, the arguments about money that always ended in apology and figuring it out. Anything that ever felt hard, we faced it together. We had 2 grown kids. Owen is 27 now, Piper 25. Both out of the house, both finding their way, both good kids. Not perfect, no one is, but good. The kind you're proud of. And I had a business that ran almost without me. 4 premium car wash locations across the county. 20 years ago, I was the guy scrubbing wheels in the sun, counting quarters at closing time, fixing machines on my knees with greasy hands. I built it up piece by piece until I could afford good managers, then great ones. By last year, the place has pulled in around 15 grand a month in passive income. The managers handled the day-to-day, I handled the bigger decisions, and the numbers came to me every morning on my phone. Most days my routine was simple. Wake up, coffee, check the reports, maybe drive by one of the locations if I felt like getting out. The rest of the day I'd work on the house, fix whatever needed fixing, or plan a trip with Yvonne. She loved trips. She loved anything that felt like forward motion. Yvonne was a real estate agent, and she was good. Better than good. She had that kind of energy that pulls rooms toward her. Always closing deals, always attending some networking event, always coming home late smelling like wine and those fancy appetizers people set out at open houses. I used to tease her about it. She'd laugh, kiss my cheek, say her day was exhausting, and head upstairs to shower. I never questioned it. Why would I? We were stable, comfortable. There was no disaster waiting in the corner. No warning lights. No big fights. If anything, I thought we were in the easiest stretch of our lives. Kids grown, money steady, health decent, time finally ours. That's what made the note feel like the floor had dropped away. There was no build-up, no conversation I could point to and say, that was the moment everything cracked. Just a quiet Tuesday and a woman who decided I didn't even deserve a goodbye in person. I spent that whole day calling her. I called every hour, then every half hour, then every 5 minutes like persistence could resurrect a marriage. By afternoon, I drove to her office. Her colleague at the front desk gave me a polite, nervous look and told me Yvonne had taken an indefinite leave. No idea when she'd be back. No idea where she'd gone. I asked if she'd left a number. I asked if there was any emergency contact. The colleague's eyes slid away from mine. She repeated she didn't know anything. The way she said it told me she knew enough to be uncomfortable. On the drive home, my hands were locked at 10 and 2. I kept thinking maybe she got scared, maybe something happened, maybe there was some version of this story where I wasn't a man whose wife walked out with his savings. When I got home, I called the kids. Owen answered first. He sounded tired, like he'd been expecting my call. "Dad?" he said, and there was something in that single word that made my stomach tighten. "Have you heard from your mother?" A pause. Too long. "She's going through something," he said. "What does that mean?" "It means give her space." Space. Like I was the problem. Like my asking where my wife was somehow cruel. "Where is she, Owen?" "I don't know," he snapped too quickly. "She needed time, okay? Just don't make this worse." He hung up before I could say another word. Piper picked up on the third ring. Her voice was unsteady. I could hear she'd been crying. "Sweetheart," I said softly, trying not to let my own voice break. "Did your mom call you?" Another pause. A different kind. "Guilty. She said she needed some time." Piper whispered. "Time for what?" "I don't know. She said she was overwhelmed." "Overwhelmed by what, Pip?" "Your mother didn't even talk to me." "I'm sorry," she said, and I knew she meant it. But that didn't answer the question. After we hung up, I sat in the living room until it got dark. The TV stayed off. The lamps stayed off. I just listened to the house settle. Every creak felt like a footstep that wasn't there. That first night, I didn't sleep. I walked through each room like a stranger. I picked up small things, her hair tie on the bathroom counter, a lipstick cap that had rolled behind the dresser, a scarf she'd left over a chair. I kept waiting for a new message, a correction, some proof I'd misunderstood. Nothing came. Some people talk about heartbreak like a sharp pain. What I felt was slower, heavier, like someone had wrapped a rope around my chest and was pulling it tighter 1 inch at a time. The note sat on the kitchen table all night. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Couldn't bring myself to keep it either. I left it there because moving it would make it real. By the time dawn came, I knew 2 things for certain. First, Yvonne was gone. Second, everyone around me knew more than they were saying. And if I wanted the truth, I was going to have to survive long enough to find it. 3 months after Yvonne left, I stopped counting the days. At first, I woke up reaching for my phone, waiting for her name to appear, then fell asleep with the ringer on, as if one vibration could undo what she'd done. The silence each morning was worse than any fight, because at least a fight meant she was still there. By early summer, I learned hope can rot you. So I did what I've always done when life gets messy. I built a routine and lived inside it. The car washes kept me upright. For locations, good managers, steady customers. Summer heat brings dust. Dust brings business. I checked the numbers, approved supplies, sent short messages, then let the managers handle the rest. The operations didn't need me hovering, and I didn't need another thing asking questions I couldn't answer. After that, I threw myself into the house. The lawn, the gutters, the fence, the garage. Yvonne used to treat the yard like a showpiece. When she left, her flower beds began to sag. I'm no gardener, but I couldn't stand seeing them die. So I watered, pulled weeds, fixed small things just to hear a hammer. Busy hands, quiet head. But quiet isn't peace. At night the questions crawled back in. Where did she go? Why take $80,000 like a thief? And why were Owen and Piper acting like I was the one at fault? Owen's voice the day she disappeared sounded armored. Give her space, Dad. Piper cried and said Mom was overwhelmed. Neither would say overwhelmed by what, or where she'd gone, or when she'd call. I didn't want to suspect my own kids, but I couldn't ignore it. They knew more than they were saying. They were protecting her from me. Late May passed, and I barely noticed the neighborhood. Then one morning, while I watered the beds, a car door slammed across the street. A beat-up Honda Civic sat in the rental driveway opposite mine. A woman in scrubs stepped out, coffee in one hand, keys in the other, shoulders heavy with the kind of tired that doesn't wash off in one sleep. She noticed me and gave a small wave. I nodded back. Her mailbox gave me her name, Thea Kimball. At first that was all she was, a name. We crossed paths for a couple weeks. She left for work as I checked my mail. I rolled trash cans out as she pulled in at sunrise. A nod, a wave. 2 Saturdays later, I was changing the oil in my truck when I heard footsteps on my driveway. Thea walked over holding a plate covered in foil. "You look like you could use some homemade cookies," she said, setting it on my workbench. "Chocolate chip. They're a little burned." The gesture was small, but it hit me hard. Kindness without a hook had become rare. "Thanks. I'm Russ." "I know," she said with a slight smile. "Your mailbox told me." "Night shift?" I asked, nodding at her scrubs. She laughed, genuine and quick. "ICU nurse. County Memorial. 12-hour shifts. That explains the tired." "Pretty much." We stood there quiet for a beat. Then she nodded at my tools. "You do all this yourself?" "Always have. Keeps me busy. Gives me too much time to think." She watched me a second, not pitying, just understanding. "If you ever need to overthink out loud, I'm usually home on Wednesday mornings. I make decent coffee." Then she walked back across the street. I ate 3 cookies before noon. Burned bottoms and all, they tasted perfect. When Wednesday came, I told myself I wasn't going over there. I didn't want to impose. But the house went quiet in that heavy way, and my thoughts got loud. So I crossed the street. Thea opened the door in sweatpants, hair messy, mug already in hand. "Hey, come in." Her house wasn't fancy, just lived in. The coffee she poured smelled strong enough to wake the dead. We sat in her living room. She skipped small talk. "So, what's your story, Russ?" I should have dodged it, but the words came anyway. "My wife left. 4 months ago. Note on the counter. Took 80 grand. No explanation." She nodded. "You hear from her?" "Not a word. And my kids, they know something. They won't tell me." That's a hard place to be. Silence settled between us. Then she said, "My dad died last year. Cancer. I took care of him at home." "I'm sorry." She nodded once. "Your brother Russell was one of my patients 3 years ago. I remember you. You came every day that final week." The room shifted. My throat tightened. "You recognized me." "I did. I didn't bring it up at first. I wasn't sure you'd remember me." "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because you deserve honesty," she said. "And because I don't want to build a friendship on something left unsaid." Friendship. The words softened something in my chest. She wasn't offering to fix my life or replace anyone. She was offering solid ground to stand on. When I left her house, Yvonne was still gone and my kids were still hiding something. Yet across the street was a woman who'd offered coffee and a place to breathe. I didn't know what that meant yet. I only knew I wasn't done finding out. By July, the heat settled over the county like a heavy hand, and the car washes were doing record business. People wanted their vehicles spotless for summer road trips. Lines stretched out past the vacuums on weekends, and my managers were working overtime to keep up. I should have been focused on profit margins, staffing, expansion plans. Instead, I was thinking about Wednesday mornings. It happened quietly, without either of us naming it. Thea would work night shift Tuesday into Wednesday, get home around 7, sleep a few hours, then wake up to the sound of me knocking on her door with pastries from the bakery downtown. We'd sit on her back porch with coffee strong enough to peel paint and talk until noon. Some mornings we talked about nothing. The weather, a new restaurant in town, the dumb things people did in traffic. Other mornings we went deeper without meaning to. She'd tell me about a patient who didn't make it, about families who clung to hope long after medicine had run out of answers. She didn't dramatize it. She just said it straight, like truth was the only way she knew how to carry grief. I told her about Owen's phone calls that had turned sharp and cold. He'd call every couple weeks, always starting normal, then circling back to his mother like a dog guarding a bone. "She's not herself right now, Dad. You don't know what she's dealing with. Stop pushing her." And every time I'd ask where she was, he'd get defensive, then shut down. Piper was softer but worse in a way that hurt differently. She'd call, cry, say she missed her mother, say she wished we could just be okay again. Then she'd go quiet when I asked questions she didn't want to answer. Thea listened. She didn't take sides in a way that felt cheap. She looked at it like a puzzle she was helping me hold, not solve for me. "Your kids are stuck in the middle," she said one morning, feet propped up on the porch railing. "They love both of you. But their mom probably gave them a version of the story where you're the reason she ran." What version could she possibly give? I snapped before I could stop it. Months of swallowing frustration can make you bite without warning. I worked hard. I provided. I never cheated. Never raised my voice. What did I do wrong? Thea didn't flinch. She took a slow sip of coffee, then said, Maybe that's part of it. I stared at her. What does that mean? You were steady, she said quietly. Predictable. Safe. Some people confuse safe with boring. The word stung. Not because she was cruel. Because she was probably right. Yvonne used to call me her rock. I used to be proud of that. Rocks don't leave. Rocks don't wobble. Rocks hold things in place. When did being a rock become something a person runs from instead of leans on? That afternoon, I went home and stared at the photos on my dresser. Me and Yvonne in our wedding clothes. Young and sure we had life figured out. Me holding Owen as a newborn. Yvonne asleep in the hospital bed beside us. Family vacations, birthdays, 100 small moments frozen into proof that the life we had was real. I didn't rip anything up. I didn't throw anything away. I just took our wedding photo and put it in the drawer. Not because I hated her. Because I needed to stop staring at a past that wasn't coming back. After that, I noticed my world shifting. I still missed the life I thought I had. But the missing didn't control me the way it used to. Some mornings I'd wake up and the first thing I'd think about wasn't Yvonne. It was whether I should bring croissants or muffins to Thea's porch. That realization scared me. One evening in late July, I was replacing rotted boards on Thea's back deck. I'd offered to help because that's who I am. I fix things. Even when I don't know what's broken in my own life, I can still spot a loose plank. Thea came out with 2 beers. She'd been off work 3 days, looked more rested than I'd ever seen her, hair down for once. You don't have to fix everything in my house, she said, handing me a bottle. I know. I tested the new board with my boot. I like working with my hands. Keeps me from thinking too much. She sat on the steps beside my toolbox, watching me for a minute. Then she said, Can I ask you something personal? Shoot. Are you doing all this because you're trying to move on, or because you're still waiting for her to come back? The question landed like a rock to the chest. I set the hammer down. 2 months earlier, I would have answered without hesitation. I was waiting for an apology, an explanation, a return that made sense of everything. Now, I didn't know. I don't know, I admitted. I'm just trying to figure out what comes next. Thea nodded once, like that was enough. For what it's worth, she said, I think what comes next might be better than what came before. That night, I went home and stood alone in my bedroom with the drawer half open. I wasn't angry. I wasn't desperate. I was tired of living in a hallway between yesterday and tomorrow. Some chapters in whether you approve or not. September crept in. The mornings cooled. The air smelled different. I caught myself humming while I worked in the garage, and that startled me more than anything else. Joy, even in small doses, feels strange after you've been gutted. Thea and I weren't calling it anything. We weren't posting anything. We weren't rushing. It was just comfort growing between 2 people who understood loss. She had a toothbrush at my place for the mornings she came over after shift. I had a key to her place for emergencies, because her schedule was brutal and she worried about getting locked out at 3 a.m. Those details didn't feel like dating. They felt like 2 adults building a safe corner in a world that had been too loud. Then, on a Tuesday night in late September, almost exactly a year after Yvonne walked out, I was in the garage organizing tools while Thea was inside making dinner. She'd insisted I needed to eat something besides sandwiches and takeout. I didn't fight her on it. My phone buzzed on the workbench. Unknown number. Normally, I don't open unknown numbers. Too many scam calls. Too many wrong texts. But something about the timing made my stomach drop before my hand even moved. I opened it. I've had my fun. Now I'm ready to be a wife again. Can we talk? No greeting. No apology. No how are you? Just a sentence that hit like a slap, like she'd gone on a long vacation and expected to step back into her old seat like it was still reserved. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Then I lit it again and read it once more, like repetition might change the meaning. A full year of silence, and that was what she chose to say. Thea appeared in the garage doorway, towel over her shoulder. Dinner's almost ready, she said. You coming in? I didn't answer. I just held out the phone. She read the message. I watched her face shift, curiosity to understanding to something tighter around the eyes. Are you going to respond? She asked, voice careful, neutral. I opened my mouth, then closed it. My chest felt hollow. No, I said finally. The word came out more certain than I felt. There's nothing to say to that. Thea didn't tell me what to do. She just nodded slowly, like she was filing it away. She's going to try again, she said. People who leave like that don't take silence well. I wanted to argue that Yvonne could be reasonable, that we'd built a life, that she'd eventually understand. But deep down I knew Thea was right. Because the woman who wrote that text wasn't asking to come home. She was announcing that she expected to be let back in. And for the first time in a year, I felt the old rope tighten, not around my heart this time, but around my future. Thea was right. Silence didn't end anything. It just lit a fuse. Over the next 3 days I got messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Each one felt like a different mask over the same face. I made a mistake. Please answer me. I was lost. The kids miss having us together. That last line did it. The kids. Like Owen hadn't been acting like her bodyguard on the phone. Like Piper hadn't gone quiet every time I asked where her mother was. Yvonne was pulling the oldest lever she had, using our children like a pressure point, hoping guilt would make me fold. I didn't answer. Not once. Instead, I called a divorce lawyer. Her name was Barbara Chun. She didn't offer soft words or pretend this was normal. She listened, took notes, then looked me straight in the eye. Mr. Lawson, abandonment for a year is serious. Removing marital funds without consent is serious. If we can document any affairs, your position gets stronger. The word affairs landed heavy. I didn't want to hear it, but I couldn't ignore how neatly it fit the shape of everything that had happened. How do I prove that? I asked. Private investigator. I'll connect you with someone discreet. If there's something to find, he'll find it. I signed the paperwork that afternoon. Not for revenge. For protection. I wasn't going to let Yvonne drop back into my life and set fire to what I was rebuilding. When I got home, Thea was on my porch in her scrubs, hair still damp, eyes scanning my face. I hired a lawyer, I told her, and an investigator. If she wants to return, she can do it through legal channels. Thea didn't cheer or tell me I was brave. She just stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. A quiet, steady hold that said, "You're not carrying this alone anymore." That night, I turned my phone off and left it in a drawer. 2 weeks passed. My life settled into a tense calm. I slept better. Not great, but better. The business was strong, the house was steady, and my head wasn't constantly ringing with unanswered questions. Then Saturday morning came with a knock so hard it sounded like a demand. I knew who it was. I looked through the window first. Yvonne stood on my porch wearing a look that belonged on a billboard. Hairstyled, makeup flawless, outfit expensive enough to announce she was still in control. She looked rested, even glowing, like the past year had been a spa retreat instead of a wrecking ball. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, listening to her knock again. "Russell, I know you're in there. Please talk to me." I walked closer and spoke through the door, my voice flatter than I expected. "You need to leave, Yvonne." A pause. Then that pleading tone she used to turn on whenever she wanted something. I made a mistake. I was confused. I needed time, but I'm ready now. I want to come home. "This isn't your home anymore," I said. "You left. You took $80,000 and disappeared for a year. You don't get to walk back in because you feel like it." "Russell, I love you. I always loved you. I just lost my way. Lost her way. Like she'd wandered off by accident. Like the empty closet and missing money were just a misunderstanding." I felt nothing rise in me. No anger. No pull. Just a clean, cold certainty. Behind me, I heard the shower upstairs shut off. Then footsteps. Thea appeared at the top of the stairs in one of my old t-shirts. Hair damp. Eyes alert. She took in the scene instantly. "Want me to answer?" she asked softly. I hesitated a heartbeat, then stepped aside. "Yeah, I think that's best." Thea walked down and opened the door before I could second-guess myself. Yvonne went still. Her eyes locked on Thea, then dropped to her stomach, where a small curve had started to show. Thea was 5 months pregnant. We'd found out 3 weeks earlier, right around the time those desperate messages started. Yvonne's face drained of color so fast it looked unreal. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "Can I help you?" Thea asked. Polite, firm. Not smug. Not cruel. Just present. "Who are you?" Yvonne whispered at last. "I'm Thea," she said simply. "You need to leave. Russell doesn't want to talk to you." Yvonne tried to look past her for me, like we were still a private world. But I had already turned away. I walked into the kitchen and poured coffee with steady hands, listening to the door close, listening to the lock slide into place. Through the window, I watched Yvonne stand on the porch for a long moment, her perfect composure cracked wide open. Then she turned and walked unsteadily back to her car. Thea came into the kitchen and stood beside me. "You okay?" she asked. I surprised myself. Yeah, I really am. 2 days later, Owen showed up. He didn't come alone. Melissa was with him, posture stiff and eyes sharp, like she rehearsed this speech on the ride over. They found me in the driveway washing my own car, a habit I kept because soap and water quiet the mind. We need to talk, Dad, Owen said. About what? About you replacing Mom like she never existed, he snapped. About you bringing some woman into her house and getting her pregnant. What are you thinking? The accusation hit hard because it came from my son, but I didn't let it pull me under. First of all, this is my house, I said, voice level. Your mother walked out on it over a year ago. Second, Thea isn't replacing anyone. She's building something new with me. Your mother chose to destroy what we had. She made a mistake, Melissa cut in. People make mistakes. Your mother didn't make a mistake, I said, looking directly at Owen. She made a choice. She chose to leave. Chose to take $80,000. Chose to disappear for a year. Those are decisions. You don't know what she was going through, Owen shot back. She needed support. I was her husband for 26 years, I said, feeling the edge in my own voice now. If she needed support, she could have talked to me before she emptied our savings and vanished. Melissa's mouth tightened. That money was hers too. Not the way she took it. I held Owen's gaze. And not while you two were sending her money behind my back. Owen went silent. His face flushed. Confirmation without words. She's our mother, he said finally. And she's the one who left, I replied. I'm done being her fallback plan. Melissa gestured toward the house. You're still married legally. This could hurt you. I felt something hard and steady settle in my chest. Abandonment gives me standing, I said. And if we're talking about affairs, ask your mother what she's been doing. My investigator has detailed reports. Owen's color fell away. You hired a PI? I protected myself, I said. Now get off my property. They left, Melissa practically dragging him to the car. I watched them drive away, then went inside where Thea sat at the table, hands around a mug, eyes soft but worried. I heard most of that, she said. I sank into the chair across from her, exhaustion deep and honest. I'm tired, I admitted. Tired of being treated like the villain for surviving what she did. Thea reached across, took my hand, anchoring me again. Eventually he'll see it, she said. Maybe, I said. But right now he's choosing her story over mine. That afternoon I called Barbara and told her everything. She wasn't surprised. She's stalling, Barbara said. Hoping you'll cave. Don't. You've got the stronger case. When I hung up, I stared out at the street and understood something clearly for the first time in a year. Yvonne wasn't coming back for love. She was coming back to reclaim control, and I wasn't giving it to her. 3 weeks after Owen's visit, Piper texted me. Can we meet for coffee? Just the two of us. No accusations, no pressure, just a quiet request. I met her downtown on a cold November morning. She was already there, sitting stiffly in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug like she needed the heat to keep herself steady. Thanks for coming, Dad, she said. Always, I told her. Her eyes filled fast. I'm sorry. I should have reached out sooner. I should have stood up for you when Owen was being awful. You were stuck in the middle, I said. I know you love your mom. I was a coward, she whispered. Then she took a breath. Mom called me after she went to the house and saw Thea. She was hysterical, saying you betrayed her, that you moved on too fast. And I just listened. I didn't say what I should have said. What should you have said? I asked gently. That she left you. Piper said, anger starting to crack through her guilt. She vanished for over a year. What did she think would happen? That you'd freeze your life waiting for her? I felt something loosen in my chest. Not triumph. Relief. Someone else finally said it out loud. You knew where she was, I said softly. Piper nodded, ashamed. Some of it. She called me a few times, said she was in California figuring things out. I didn't know everything, but Owen knew more. He told me she'd been with someone, and when that blew up, she suddenly wanted to come home. So I was the backup plan, I said. Piper's voice went sharp. Yes, and I'm ashamed I sent her money. Owen and I both did. We didn't tell you because we knew it was wrong. We were helping her hurt you. I squeezed her hand. You love your mother. I get it. I'm not asking you to hate her. I'm choosing the truth, she said. Last week I heard her talking to her friend Janet. She was laughing about you, calling you predictable and boring. She said you were a reliable paycheck. And when Janet asked why she wanted to come back now, Mom said, stability looks better when you're broke and alone. The words didn't stab the way they would have a year earlier. They just confirmed what I already felt in my bones. Yvonne didn't miss me. She missed what I provided. That must have been hard to hear, I said. It made me sick, Piper replied. And it made me realize Thea isn't stealing you. Mom threw you away. We talked a long time after that. When we hugged in the parking lot, I felt like I got my daughter back, the adult version who could look at the truth without blinking. By February, the divorce hearing arrived. Yvonne came in looking polished but tired. Her lawyer argued she'd been lost and deserved another chance. The judge turned to me. Mr. Lawson, do you wish to reconcile? No, Your Honor, I said. I moved on. I want this marriage dissolved. Yvonne's lawyer demanded half of everything. Barbara stood and laid out the evidence. The $80,000 taken without my consent, the year of abandonment, and the investigators' reports of long-term affairs. The judge read in silence, then looked up at Yvonne. These were choices, not accidents, she said. Divorce granted on grounds of abandonment and adultery. Mr. Lawson retains the business and primary residence. Mrs. Lawson receives 15% of marital assets, minus the $80,000 withdrawn. The gavel fell. Just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, Thea took my hand. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I said, and I meant it. That afternoon, I updated my will. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I was protecting what mattered now. Piper would be taken care of. Owen would have a path back only if he chose it honestly. Late March, our daughter Emma Grace was born. I held her in the hospital while Thea slept, and something in my chest clicked into place. This wasn't the family I thought I'd have. It was the one I chose, the one that chose me back. Piper came to visit, crying as she held her baby sister. Owen didn't come, didn't call. It hurt, but it didn't break me. I couldn't control his choices, only my own. 10 months after the divorce, I ran into Yvonne at the grocery store. She looked smaller somehow, like the world had finally caught up with her. She saw Emma on my chest and whispered, "She's beautiful." "Thank you," I said. "I heard you and Thea got married," she added. "Congratulations." "We did," I replied. She stood there like she wanted more, but I didn't give her a doorway. "Take care of yourself, Yvonne," I said, and walked away without looking back. That night I sat on the back porch with Thea while Emma slept between us. The business was stronger than ever. My life was quieter, steadier, real. How everything had to fall apart so it could come together, I said. Thea squeezed my hand. "You're my first choice," she said. "And you're mine." I used to think being abandoned was the worst thing that could happen to me. Turns out it was the thing that finally pushed me toward the life I was meant to build. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.